Hey everybody, welcome to Snow Talk. Way Through News meteorologist Brian Good here. Obviously lots to cover as we head into the next several days with the snow chance and the forecast. New data. Just got through analyzing all the latest model runs, and I'm going to share with you the latest trends and my thoughts on how things are looking with the next couple of systems. First off, let me share with you the good news today, and that is look at the sunshine outside. There are some clouds off to the north, but another beautiful day here in Kentuckiana. Temperatures as of the top of the hour have been running into the 50s in many locations. You see the snow to the north. That's not coming here, but it is colder air that is working its way to the south. You see temperatures in Indy, in fact, only in the 40-degree range, 30s further north than that. Now, for us, as we head into this afternoon, we'll should hold steady in the mid-50s, but that colder air, in fact, for Bedford and Seymour and North Vernon will begin to show up, I would say, probably by sunset this evening, and then we'll all feel that as we head into tonight there. You can see it on Futurecast. We drop temperatures down into a few 20s off to the north, right around freezing, looks like here in the city. I wouldn't rule out a flurry north and east of town. At this point, it's hard to determine how much the cold air will be as far as the thickness goes, whether it would be a sprinkle or flurry, but nevertheless, it doesn't look to be a big deal, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get to hear a few reports of some flurries north and east later tonight, and then tomorrow, yeah, not as nice as today, or the past several days, really. Temperatures will be struggling to get into the 40s. All right, so let's get into the stats here. For the year to date, our normal should be 5 inches. Obviously below that, last year, 8.6 on the board. I've raised it to 2 Twix bars now for Friday night and Saturday. Keeping it at 1 for Sunday night and a Monday. That could be dropped, though, to a half a Twix bar based on the latest data. And I'm going to raise the Super Bowl / Groundhog Day potential to 1 full Twix bar. Here's the setup we're facing with the first one. Low pressure is developing across the Four Corners area. It's already on site. Weather balloons launched into it today. We'll get today's 12Z model runs, or midday model runs, the first round really of getting good data. We should have much more data certainly tonight at around 10 o'clock this evening. This low is going to track, it looks like, across Louisiana. Low pressure begins to the surface low begins to develop across the Panhandle of Florida, and then tracks right across southern Georgia, and then it becomes a big debate how much of a hug to the coast it will do once it goes away from us up the eastern seaboard. So those in the northeast are really watching this carefully for them. For our impact, though, the track from southern Alabama into southern Georgia, that would put the main snow band mainly across Kentucky, not so much Indiana. If there is a more jog to the north, say north of Montgomery, closer to Atlanta, then we get into more of a scenario where the snow will be more into Indiana. At this point, though, we have not seen a northward shift. In fact, the models have held steady now for 12 hours on the track of the system, and that's good to see a good agreement. Doesn't mean it's done entirely. It just means that so far there has not been a drastic change. Then we get into the clipper. When you get a clipper that comes down, you don't want to be along the path, and you don't want to be south of it. You want to be north of it. That is where you get your accumulating snow. And the trend on the GFS and the Euro really was to take it across St. Louis, which would put the snow band closer to us. We'll be on the northern side of that as we head into Sunday night into Monday. The trend now in the past 24 hours is to take the main low mainly to the north, which means we get some moisture with this, rain, and then on the backside we get a little bit of snow that could fall. But with the track shifting more north, our chances for anything significant out of that is looking much more or less than what it did yesterday. Our issue with the Friday night system, though, and Saturday, is how warm are we going to get on Friday? Because that will determine the process, what we call wet bulbing. In other words, when you got dry air, and when you have some dry air play, whenever precipitation falls in that dry air, it actually can cool it down. How low are we going to cool down from where the high will be for that day? And the models vary on how warm we'll get. Some say 38, 39, some say about mid-40s. And that's a big difference because when we wet bulb down, if we only wet bulb down to, say, 34 degrees for the entire event, a lot of that will melt. Very little will stick. If it comes down hard enough, grassy areas and rooftops will turn white, but it'll melt away as soon as it stops snowing. So determining how warm we get on a Friday determines how much of a drop we will have Friday night. And that's a question we really can't answer. You can see here on the, this is the NAM model. It shows into the afternoon. You see the dry air. This is your moisture line's green, temperature is red. See the dry air at the surface. This is where we begin the process of wet bulbing. This is in the afternoon, 3 or 4 in the afternoon on Friday. It's showing rain. Then we wet bulb down, and it changes to snow. We wet bulb down, according to this model, right at the 0 degree mark. Right at it. Or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Can't get much more right on that point than what the models are saying. That would be enough for a wet snow accumulation, wet roads, which is good for travel. You know, that's the big question we got to answer. How much are we going to have a drop here as we head into the nighttime hours? Anyway, so here are the model trends. Here is the, I'm going to do the short-term models first and get into the longer term. Here is the, or the higher resolution, I should say. Here's the NAM model, 2.2 to as much as 3.5 for E-Town. Again, this is not our forecast. Kevin and I are going to work on that and have that out hopefully today at 5. But this is the model for the NAM. Indicating the heaviest band. You can see the trend is for Kentucky, very little for Indiana. The model, I don't think, is accounting for any type of melting that could take place, so I would knock a few digits off of this, maybe a few tenths off of this number here. What can change all of this completely is what we call banding. When you get bands of heavier snow that can develop, that is possible, and then in that case these numbers will be too low, and we just can't pick out bands of snow like that. Banding features, they're too small for the models to see in advance until you get to that day, so that's something we'll watch later. But right now, in a broader scheme, you can see the overall trend, mainly in Kentucky, lesser amounts in Indiana. When we look at our RPM model, which struggles to pick out snow events far out, and it's not seen much. In fact, it's not seen anything for this one. But usually it catches on at the last minute, so we'll see what happens. GFS came in. Here is its thinking. It is obviously lower on the snow amounts. It is a warmer model. Remember that warm air I told you about on Friday, how warm we get? The GFS is the warmest for Friday afternoon. So our drop, when we wet bulb down, our drop is only going to get us to the point where a lot of it would melt. And if we get to the point where it can accumulate, it would only accumulate to maybe an inch, as you see there in the model. So that's why there's such a difference in the NAM and the GFS. It's how warm we get Friday. And the European model is still updating. I will say that this could be an old run, because the latest runs are trying to indicate more the 2-inch mark will be down here, 1 inch here on the river, and nothing to the north. But it is very similar to the NAM model. But we're getting to the point now where you can't really use the Euro because its grid is too broad, really, when you get into a short-term event. So we'll probably be not paying much attention to Euro in the coming hours. But anyway, here's the Buffett sounding. This is for Louisville. It's hard to read this number. Again, you read it left to right. This is going right to left. You can see it's forecasting for Louisville 2.4 inches of snowfalls. 2.0 would actually accumulate because of melting. Bowling Green, I'm going to put you guys on here. We've got a lot of folks watching from Bowling Green. Hello, Hilltoppers that are watching as well. It's giving you guys 3.6, 4.6 falls. But 3.6 is the most likely amount that would stick to the south. So based on these numbers alone, this is looking like to be more of an advisory level event. Because of the melting and the idea we don't know how low we're going to go. Whether it's Weather Service call, though, they issue the advisories and the watches and warnings. We don't do that. They do. But if I had to guess what they're probably thinking right now, and it's hard to do sometimes, but I would say an advisory level event is looking to be more likely than a winter storm warning type scenario. But we'll watch it, because those banding features, that can change everything. Okay, now the Clipper. This is the Canadian. A lot of you probably saw this, like, well, look at that. It's cold, the blue line south of us here. We got moisture. Man, this is like nice snow coming our way Sunday night and Monday. But you look at the temperatures at the surface, it's 40 degrees. So that's why it looks impressive as far as what's falling, but chances for anything sticking, at least in the Canadian, is pretty slim, and even the other models don't look too impressive for Monday morning. I wouldn't run a dusting Monday morning with some snow showers. We'll watch it carefully, but at this point, I don't think it's going to be anything to get too overly worked up about. And then what I still think is going to be considered a Super Bowl / groundhog storm. I'm waiting for somebody to name it something. There's strong signals that there's going to be energy moving out of Texas, and this time around it's not marginally cold air that could be available. It could be Arctic air, and I think that is going to be our item to watch. That should look familiar to you guys. We'll see how that plays out. Overall, here's the model trends. You see the cold Arctic air turning about across the northern part of the country. See how we dip down the last day of the month. It heads in our direction, getting colder and colder, and we're still forecasting that trend to hold true. It's just a matter of time when that actually happens. All right, so there is the latest for Friday night, Saturday, and the Clipper on Sunday. We're going to put together our thoughts, Kevin and I, and we'll have a snow map hopefully out later today. But at this point, it looks to be a wet snow event. Advisory level is likely, but for snow lovers, I think you guys will take anything at this point. Still early in the game. Things can still change, and sometimes they always do.